All right, boys, here it is. This is the big boy. Shadows of Evil, Treyarch's Mona Lisa zombie retrospective. We're going to be reacting to Pat's latest retrospective on one of my personal favorite maps of all time with my favorite wonder weapon of all time. I'm so excited to see what Pat has to say, because I think Shadows of Evil is one of the maps that everybody likes, but myself included, a few people love. So let's see. I'm excited to see.
Shadows of Evil is the second last map in Treyarch's perfect quintet. It's one of Treyarch's most ambitious to ever release, and as the first zombies map made.
Oh, he's saying that this was the second to last map before Treyarch started messing up again. He's saying this map and Der Eisendrache are the last two out of the last. Basically, there was a span of 5 maps that they made that were really good, and then there's Zetsubo. Hey, Zetsubo.
For next-gen consoles,
Let's see.
It was also the first truly polished quest-styled map. Shadows of Evil is Treyarch's Mona Lisa. It was the map they created to show off just how technically sound they had become. The map draws heavy inspiration from the formula that had been established in Black Ops 2 through Origins and Mob of the Dead, but some ideas can be seen dating all the way back to Derice. Yet while drawing heavily on these old concepts, it still manages to find new inspiration and feel creative. Shadows has fantastic graphics and immersive storyline, a beautiful setting, a perfect soundtrack,
How many times?
Tons of solid content. And as the on-disc map for Black Ops 3 Zombies, it's also one of the most played and recognizable maps to this day. And while it is now considered
Especially with the new generation.
one of the greats, for a very long time, Shadows actually saw a lot of dislike from fans. And I would go so far as to say that Shadow's initial release was received worse by the community than Transit. The map that is so revered today was disliked by so many more long ago. And so today we will be looking at why, despite Shadows being so fundamentally sound, it had such a shaky release. And so, welcome back to Zombies Retrospective. My analytics show that 53% of you are not subscribed.
Go
and
subscribe
so if you
to
are
Pat.
around here or watching this as a reaction, please go over to the
Reaction
channel, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and with that said, let's get into it.
We didn't get called out this time. That was great.
Shadows of Evil is to Mob of the Dead, as we will come to find Origins is to Der Eisendrache. It starts with a relatively linear quest to open Pack-a-Punch, which feels very reminiscent of Mob's opening plane step. You've got a straightforward path, which requires you to open up various sections of the map in Beast Mode.
Oh, the setup
Beast Mode
is so
a play
fun.
off of Afterlife, with the ritual pieces you're unlocking very obviously resembling the barriers we see.
You didn't do the jump strat. Boo.
There's
Boo.
things like doors, perks, and other locks objects which perfectly resemble Afterlife.
Dude, I never thought of that.
It's
That really is
almost
kind of like
identical
Afterlife, huh?
to Mob. But where SOE finds
never
variance
thought
is
about
on
that.
the ritual step. The ritual step is the key component and most defining feature of Shadow's opening act, and it actually draws straight from Origins. It's literally a redesign of the Origins generator step. You start a sequence that has special enemies spawn on you until a time elapses.
Yeah, I
Completing
didn't think
these
about
4
that either.
rituals and then a final similarly styled but
Everything's
more
a copy of
intense
each other.
ritual then opens up Pack-a-Punch. It's Origins, but with extra steps. And this is a neat little trick we will come to see Treyarch actually do a lot in Black Ops 3. The underlying mechanics of this opening sequence are almost identical to Mob of the Dead, but Shadows manages
All the
to
strats on
new.
Shadows is one of my
imagine
favorite
if
parts.
you were simply collecting the ritual pieces, like how you did on Mob. This would be an identical copy. If the map had played like this, it would have felt bland and uninspired. But what makes Shadows feel so unique are the inclusion of rituals. Shadows draws off of 2 old concepts, but blends them together seamlessly to create what feels like a new and unique
Yeah, dude, I agree with everything
and
he's
we
saying
will
so
actually
far.
see the
100%.
exact same thing, but in reverse on Der Eisendrache. I think overall this is a really effective way to reuse content. And Shadows actually draws on Mob in more ways than its opening sequence. The map plays on a similar theme of
quests?
atonement for sins, just like we see with our Mob crew. But again, Shadows manages to make this idea feel fresh. The Shadow Man takes hold of the map's narrative on round 1 and never stops until you turn that slimy weasel into a giant gummy worm. He plays on the guilt of your 4 characters, and so they cooperate with him. He's deviously charming and is by far the best character on the map.
Will the Gateworms
And
ever
he
explain like
embodies a
what they
difference
are?
From Mob. On Mob of the Dead, the Atonement theme is very much background noise,
I'm not
and there
thinking
isn't
about it.
really a figure that embodies the ancient evil or guiding force of the map. And I think that's why Shadows manages to be different. This time we have a face to the antagonist of the map rather than it simply being a generic unknown evil force. There's also huge similarities between the Mob and Shadows crew.
Dude, I will say the very first thing when you load in and you hear that, you must touch the stone, you are cursed. Like that was such a good way to intro the map, man.
First of all, they're both celebrity casts. And on top of that, Shadows is basically the third of the Dead map, but
Nero.
just with a rebranded name. Also, these two storylines are actually connected. We hear mentions of Finn O'Leary's whiskey, among other things. And they even take place in a similar era. But with this in mind, I think that the Shadows crew is not Treyarch's best lineup. As a whole, this crew
Nero was
feels
incredible.
less deep and more one-dimensional than the previous two crews we have met, Mob and Premise. The characters undergo very little development, and I think this is probably the weakest aspect of Shadows. Floyd is supposed to be the one-dimensional
I mostly just
tough
like
guy,
Nero's
and
voice
he
lines,
is.
dude.
But sadly, he's just overshadowed by the significantly more intimidating Billy Handsome. He's uninteresting and really adds little dynamic to the four beyond being the stale archetypal big guy. Nero is a very eccentric character, and while I find him to be well fleshed out, I also find him to be annoying at times. There's a lot of exploration in his guilt, which is well done, but I just don't find him enjoyable to play as. A lot of the lines are very over the top, and hearing them multiple times in a game gets stale. Overall, I think Nero is a good character, but I prefer to keep my distance from him. Now, Jessica Rose
I am
is
upset
for
about
certain
that
my
line,
favorite of
but
the four. She kills her slimeball
alas.
manager because he was blackmailing her, and while it may be unjustified, it at least makes sense. She is a bit of a cliche as the young female trying to make it as an actor, but we do actually get to find out that she is deeper than that. I think she is by far the most realistic and fully fleshed out character. Plus, she does have one of the most classic lines in all of Zombies.
Hey, you.
And lastly, we have Jackie Vincent.
How many times have I heard it, chat?
Least favorite characters in Zombies.
How many times have I heard it?
Hijacks every moment with very narcissistic comments and is simply not fun to play as. He's meant to be an egomaniac, but I find the dialogue gets very annoying after a while. While his actions are believable, they're not relatable, and I just never found myself caring about him. And so as a group of four, I think overall the Shadows crew fails. On their own, they're generally uninteresting.
I don't think they fail, but they're definitely just like
to bring their
meh. They're just meh to me. No.
We see little character
Mostly about the map for
and
me.
most of their exploration only comes from the Shadow Man's lead. I think Mob does a much better job with the Atonement theme because it allows the characters to come to their own conclusions. For example, when Weasel or Sal pack a punch, they give us amazing personal insights. It just feels a lot more impactful and earned when they realize or try to deny how awful they are. But if there's one part Shadows excels on more than any map,
the soundtrack.
it's setting. This map is one of
part of
Treyarch's
setting.
most detailed and beautiful.
Dude, the soundtrack
It's
for
a
Shadows is so
1940s
good.
alternate Chicago full of bright lights and one of the greatest soundtracks in Zombies history.
Yes!
Like seriously, snakeskin boots, the apocalypse averted pack-a-punch music, and over 10 custom round change songs. Zombies has always gravitated towards metal. Let's do it! And it's so impressive of what a great job they did with jazz. But Shadows also has a beautiful aesthetic. Mob is somber, dark, and evil, whereas Shadows is lively. From the job they did with
Okay,
it's so impressive of what a great job they did.
As you can tell, I'm having a lot of fun with my new
Shadows
Zoom
also
camera.
Has a beautiful aesthetic. Mob is somber, dark, and evil, whereas Shadows is lively. From the Footlight District's burlesque building to the main junction and pack-a-punch room, it's literal
worst characters,
perfection.
better
and all
setting.
Of this beauty
I agree
is
that.
then layered
movement.
with
Thank you.
Lovecraftian monsters littered everywhere throughout the map. Cthulhu statues to charge your Apothicon egg, giant tentacle Margwa monsters, an antagonist who turns out to be a tentacle monster. Oh, and a skyline with a giant octopus monster. To combine these two elements is absolutely bizarre, and that only makes its success more effective and compelling. Shadows of Evil is the best looking original zombies map, and it's not even close. You know what else blows my mind on Shadows? Its design. I will go out on a limb here and say that Shadows has the best layout of any zombies map ever.
Oh wait, I was gonna let it like think about that for a second, but I gotta know how many NDUs.
At around 23 Nocturne Totens, Shadows is a respectively big map,
really?
but its layout makes
I thought it would be bigger.
To navigate. Also, hi Lex and hi Noah. Shadows has got 4.
Hello, Pat. Let me just make sure my like stayed as a like. Okay, perfect.
Unique sections, plus the Pack-a-Punch area down below.
Oh my goodness.
So despite it coming close to the size of Origins or Mob, getting around this map is a pleasure. Well, no big Treyarch map is a pleasure, but it does the best job.
Yeah,
so the
for how big it is,
serves as
I will
a
say
central
that.
hub connecting the 3 districts along with the Rift area.
The tram takes a little too long, but you really don't take it ever.
This is the most economical design that any map can realistically have, and we've actually seen its effect
with teleporters as well.
Dries actually invented this format. Literally, teleporter A, B, and C with the middle area being spawn. This design makes travel from the middle area very effective. But each district also has a rift, which then connects itself to the
rifts
lower
tie it together.
area
It makes a
map.
nice web.
This then makes
of the
travel
entire
between
map.
any district extremely efficient as well. The tram also serves as a relatively useful piece of transportation.
I don't know if I'd say
perfect,
useful.
but compared to the tank from Origins, the bus on Transit, or the elevator on Die Rise, the tram is actually effective.
Is
It
it the
can
best
save you
moving
time
thing?
depending on where you need to be, and
No,
it's also capable of saving
what's it called?
points. in the
Shangri-La had the best
sequence.
transportation
Treyarch
systems,
has
man. Those were so
consistently
fun.
struggled with map layout, and I would argue that this is their best work. Shadows gets a 10 on map design. And oh my god, we haven't even gotten to content yet. So what's actually new on Shadows? While maybe not as much as Origins, Shadows comes packed to the brim with new content. There are so
Lot
many
of side
weird
Easter
and
eggs.
wacky ideas blended into the map, but it's
Like a
seamless.
lot of side
For
Easter eggs.
example, the giant tentacle black hole gun wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if it was just a city. But because the city is blended with Cthulhu themes, it feels right at home. So I just want to
I
talk
love it so
about
much, it makes me cry.
Now, first of all, we have the only new perk to be featured in BO3, Widow's Wine.
That
Widow's
was
Wine serves almost
BO3's
as a
biggest
secondary
failure was perks,
juggernaut.
in my
And with
opinion.
zombie
Introducing
speed
new ones, not the
increased in
system.
This game, it came at the perfect time. Widow's Wine also serves another function. You know how Black Ops 2 zombies would start walking after round 15? The purpose of this was to make training harder. Well, Widow's Wine is basically an improvement on that old concept. Widow's Wine zombies add an additional obstacle, and so you don't want them. But the additional defense makes it worth it to use the perk. And so this makes Widow's Wine a balanced addition. Instead of forcibly adding in slow zombies unnaturally, it puts the possibility of them in the hands
I
of the
hated
player.
slow zombies
Train
so
well
much.
and you won't need to deal with it. Train
So
not
much.
as well and it will still save you. It's a smart addition that keeps this concept in, but it's just blended a little bit more nicely. Also, it's got a great perk jingle. And speaking of which, the jazz-themed perk jingles is yet another well-thought-out detail.
Dang, that was some nice movement right there.
I'm a little disappointed in Shadow's overall perk scheme. 4 perks is just not enough on this map. Even
That's
if
true.
you choose to forego quick revive,
I
you
always
still
thought BO3's biggest failure was obviously number 1, not introducing new perks on the map, and number 2, not having more ways to get permanent perk slots. I think that every single map should have at least 2 or 3 relatively simple ways to get an extra perk slot, so that gobblegums are still not as OP anymore, and that perk slots are like they're fun to, like, everyone loves getting perks, and it's a real sense of progression through the entire game. So I always thought more perk slots would have been an amazing feature.
Still have to lose something important. Juggernog is an essential, and with the map still being quite large, stamina up is a bit of a necessity. This then leaves you with only 2 slots. Do you want the new Widow's Wine, Speed Cola, Double Tap, or Mule Kick? It's a frustrating...
Say in solo, you had to go Quick Revive, Double Tap, Jug, and then Widow's Speed or Stamina for the last one. That was basically what you had to run in order to beat the map. So, like I say, like even just one more. Treyarch and their perks, man.
Have to make. And I wish
they're always so close.
Perk slots, or allowed players to get more than 4 perks in another way. Another huge addition to the game is Double Pack-a-Punch. Double Pack-a-Punch is a controversial addition as it makes every single gun equal. On round 100, the Shiva is as effective as the Haymaker, and the Ray Gun is rendered effectively useless. Still though, I think as a whole, Double Pack-a-Punch was a step in the right direction for the series. It opened the game up to later rounds and put less emphasis and necessity on wonder weapons, which is nice because many maps only have one, and so the other 3 teammates now get adequate firepower. And on that note, we also did see the most...
So again, I know that this one's very controversial. I don't think it should be because I think I'm super right about this. But alternate ammo types being like they were in BO3 is what is like the gold standard, personally. Because otherwise, like... people say it makes it too easy. Like, dude, if it's so easy, go get to round 100 only using the alternate ammo types. It's possible. It still takes forever, but then go and do it on a map where you have to use traps. Tell me which one is more fun. Like, literally, those are the 2 options. You either use the infinite damage wonder weapon, which obviously you use that till the ammo runs out, and then you have to start hitting the box or something. And then you either use the alternate ammo type or you use traps. Those are the 3 options for high rounds, unless there's some other cheese, you know what I mean? So I think alternate ammo types are one of the most important things that BO or Black Ops Cold War needs, personally. And I don't understand people who say they're overpowered.
Ever added into zombies. The tentacle black hole machine. The Apothecate Servant is essentially the perfect 20 out of 20 wonder weapon.
Yes.
The moment you shoot
my favorite one of all time.
Zombies stop attacking you. So it's the perfect safety weapon, but it's also capable of killing lots of zombies. It's basically just an infinite damage acid gat for mob, but with the cost of limited ammo. And because you
the
only
trick
get
to
10
upgrade your
shots
wonder
of the
weapon.
Maristogla, I actually feel like it's a little bit balanced. You have to use your shots wisely.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be until Rev where the Apothecate Servant gets ridiculously OP. Shadows also introduces Gobblegum. And while this is a topic worth an
who cares if
entire
stuff
video,
is OP,
they
you know what I
initially
mean?
served as a great addition. The classic lineup of Gobblegum are very balanced, providing the player with small but helpful bonuses. Swordflay's increased melee damage is great for early round point hoarding or when combined with a Bowie knife. In Plain Sight provides an additional piece of safety and can help with some Easter egg steps. And Alchemical Antithesis is a great high round gum which provides
a good
you with
one, man.
unlimited ammo. Sadly, however, it would be Activision's pursuit of micro DLC that would in a large way hurt zombies. Mega Gobblegum were initially intended to act as a very limited bonus gum. For a special game, you could pop a Perkaholic and get all the perks on the map, for example. But because Mega Gobblegum were able to be purchased, this effectively made the game pay to win. Worse, however, is that because these gums allowed players to get additional perks, it also stopped Treyarch from adding this as an in-game feature.
So here's my solution to this. I don't think they would ever do it. But here's my idea on this. Gobblegums are still microtransactions because we know that's not going away. So I'm trying to think of like what's the perfect balance. Gobblegums are still microtransactions, but once you get one, you're done forever. You get a Perkaholic, you have a Perkaholic in every game for the rest of history. You know what I mean? Because I really like the dashboarding thing where you could dashboard and save all your gums. The only problem with that is people used them online and ruined the game mode. I think their Gobblegums are just too expensive and they're too randomized. Like, I think if they were more affordable, either whether it be infinite or you get a ton of Perkaholics like all the time, where you still are like sad to lose them, but it's not a big deal because you have like 100 plus, like you have 200. I think that's a much better way to go about it. And obviously, I don't know if Activision will do that, but
1 and BO2 maps have
That's
ways
what I think.
to get more than 4 perks. Red Dig sites on Origins, The Witch on Buried, Monkeys on Shang, George on Call of the Dead, and pretty much every Easter egg ever. BO3 allows players to get more than 4 perks as well, but the step required is to steal your mom's credit card rather than doing anything.
True. Again,
So
coming back to what I said about perk
primarily,
slots.
Gobblegum hurt BO3 in this way. It not only broke the game for people who used them, but it also made Treyarch lazy in the multiple perk department. And it really hurt my wallet. I spent over $3 grand on Liquid Divinium.
That's
and so
all?
I'm still a little bit jaded by my horrible decisions.
That's
But
all,
Shadows
Pat?
also
That
has
must
a
be
ton
nice.
of little features. Pods are all over the map, and they serve as a
Workaholic
long-term
Noah.
bonus.
You know what they
Wait
call
till
me.
they turn purple, and you can get some crazy rewards like free cash, a piece for the Wonder Weapon, or maybe even a ray gun. Overall, it's super helpful, and they're a fun and well-integrated addition. Shadows also has some less than useful additions, like the upgrade for Little Arnie's. Little Arnie's are an
So
amazingly
funny, dude.
useful improvement over the Monkey Bomb, and while I don't mind the existence of an upgrade, it just always felt like a waste of time.
It was a chore
It makes
to do
them
it.
stronger, but you don't actually need that strength, as again, double Pack-a-Punch makes every gun a one-shot forever. There are also additional
I like
defense
being OP
items
on
this
zombies.
map.
I think that's
The
what it
shield
comes
was
down to.
transformed into
I
a
like
rocket
zombies is the most fun when
While
you're
the
OP.
defensive element of this is still great.
It's still
the rocket
skill-based?
boost just felt like an unnecessary gimmick.
Rocket boost
It's
was
fun,
too
but it doesn't really
risky,
add
man.
anything important. You've also got the Margwa mask, which makes it so you resist stomps. While effective, it again isn't all that useful. By the time you're ready to complete the process to get it, you'll likely be strong enough that a Margwa is of no concern. And because it requires
That
you to
helmet.
take time out of your game, it's just another item that isn't really worth the time. Again, none of
they
these
need to
things
make
take
stuff-
away from the map. I
need
just
to make
don't
stuff
think
easier
you can
to
argue
get.
that they added anything.
Yeah.
There is one other addition though that is
I literally have done the Margwa helmet Easter egg once. And that's the first time it was discovered. I did it once.
incredible.
If that tells you
A civil
anything.
Protector. By finding 3 fuses and paying 2,000 points, you essentially summon RoboCop to fall from the sky and be your personal bodyguard. He kills enemies, stomps Margwas, serves as an amazing help on the flagstep, and can even revive you. This is one of the best features in Shadows and is a concept that was never utilized this well again. And so lastly, with all that said, we have the Easter egg. Black Ops 3 as a whole notes
loved
a
it,
huge
dude.
transition in
Aside
overall
from the fact
game
it had to be
focus.
4-player.
World at
Only
War and
complaint.
Black Ops 1 were almost entirely focused on gameplay. There was storyline, but it was very much in the background, and you really had to go looking for it. Black Ops 2 saw an increase in focus on storyline, but gameplay remained at the forefront. But Black Ops 3 starts to push storyline so that it's really equal with gameplay. And this isn't to say that one formula is better than other, but it's just important to know.
I think
What
the
it does
storyline
do,
adds
however,
meaning.
is make the Easter egg of prime significance to the overall success of the map. And so now let's talk about the Shadows EE. Shadows has a lot of general similarities to the mob Easter egg. For both, the first step is a lengthy quest that opens up Pack-a-Punch. But these Easter eggs are also similar because their second step requires you to get the map's secondary Wonder Weapon. On Shadows, most of the Easter egg is actually just getting the sword. First, you spend a few rounds charging the egg at Cthulhu statues.
It's kind of a theme with BO3, honestly.
Getting kills for the Hell's
Getting the
Retriever.
Wonder
On
Weapon
Shadows,
is
you
the
must
Easter
then
egg.
take 4 rounds to kill summon Margwas in various ritual circles around the map. And that's actually most of the Easter egg, which again reminds me of Mob. Mob's Easter egg is very linear and short, and while Shadows is a bit longer, it's so entrenched in what can be considered just general gameplay that there isn't a whole lot of difference between setting up and actually trying to beat the whole egg. Up to this point, my only complaint
like
with the
it,
Shadows
honestly.
egg is that it requires a lot of round progression. To unlock Pack-a-Punch elements,
It's either
you
that
first
or
need to
soul
progress
boxes.
through
It's
rounds
either
to
that or
reach
soul
the
boxes.
beast
That's
mode.
the thing.
Then you can only do one of the 4 sword upgrade rituals once a round. So again, you'll find the most grueling aspect of this to be round hopping. And then from here, you again get another step that can only be done once a round. And so there are some parallels with Mob here, as Mob's biggest complaint is that the Easter egg is too short and tedious. But despite being so similar, Shadows of Evil does not see this critique very often. And I think this is completely because of the flag step. The flag step is one of the best gameplay orientated parts of any Easter
People-
egg in zombies.
People get
history. The step
triggered at the
itself
flag
is
step.
Amazing. You must defend a flag while it charges from an endless horde of meatballs as the Shadow Man attempts to thwart your efforts. It's a challenging and engaging step that gets your heart beating, requiring full focus. And really, it was
a really good step.
What makes Shadows a great Easter egg and Mob not so much. Both lull you into a repetitive sequence, but
or you can place the flag down, go teleport, and then go back about 2 minutes later, and the flag will be done. That's the other option, you know what I mean? But I like that kind of stuff. It's like map knowledge.
On the step, you're bound to fail. And so after you finish this, you finally overcome and defeat the Shadow Man with the help of the Keepers. It's a really done sequence with a satisfying conclusion, and Treyarch's first attempt at a boss fight. It's not fantastic, but it's also better than some boss fights we should see later. And so then, after destroying the big octopus in the sky, you get a 15-second Easter egg.
Oh, did he first try it?
Entire
Whose gameplay is this? Well done, the first try.
Surprising, enticing, and at the time was brief enough to really hook the community's interest. And I think that's what Shadows does
such a cool animation, dude.
It sets the stage for the rest of Black Ops 3 Zombies. But with all this said, how is it then that Shadows was so disliked? Surely
I don't remember it being disliked.
The thing that Shadows does well are done.
The only people I remember disliking Shadows are the people who are not hardcore players. That's the only people I remember.
It's got so many
because the casual people are like, there's too much to do. Like, I would just want to buy a gun and pack punch it and kill not like. That's basically the only people I heard dislike it.
Thoughtful detail.
Maybe I'm not remembering correctly. I don't know. It's 5 years ago.
Was not actually anything to do with the map in and of itself, but rather the problem with Shadows was its placement in the series. Shadows of Evil was the on-disc map, and being as it is, this added an additional responsibility that it did not handle well. Shadows of Evil enacted the mortal sin, and that is that it did not appeal to the casual community. Look, I can go on and on with you guys as hardcore fans about what a masterpiece Shadows.
I mean, that's what the giant was for, though. Now
we're all sitting here with 8,000 gobblegum, 800 levels, and countless Easter egg completions, but we don't speak for the casual player. And so Shadows' overcomplication was bad for the community. The Giants, Black Ops 3's only casual map, was locked behind a paywall. And so many people
I forgot about that.
To play on launch day. From day one, this alienated a huge part of the community. And
people are bad at zombies, dude. They really are.
Display their mastery in videos. I think Shadows put off a lot of people from ever joining the quote zombies community. It set a tone that was you're either deeply invested or you're out, and I think this meant that a lot of people were out from the start. Even personally, I had tons of friends comment that at the time they loved
the giant not behind a paywall,
but didn't enjoy
obviously that wouldn't happen
themselves. For a lot of people, Shadows takes an hour to set up, and if you're looking for a casual zombies experience, well, you're not gonna find it here. Now, this isn't to say that it takes away from the map objectively as a whole, but it does take away from the overall value of Black Ops 3. It was a massive oversight, and I really pray it doesn't happen again in COD 2020. Black Ops Cold War, let's freaking go. It's finally been announced.
The danger is real.
The danger is
all that said,
real.
The greatest stretch of zombies content is undoubtedly this section we are in right now, and we've still got one more map to look at. Shadows, however, was number 4 of Treyarch's perfect quintet. And really, as it sits, it was near perfect. Shadows drew heavily on Mob of the Dead, but
Shadows was so good, man.
Original. It's the most beautiful non-remade zombies map of all time and has one of the best soundtracks as well. Its blending of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu and the 1940s is a truly unique setting, and it allowed for the map to
music, man. Listen to that music
into a realistic setting. And it's got a fantastic Easter egg that sets the stage for the rest of Black Ops 3 for both our protagonists and the Shadow Man. Shadows of Evil is fundamentally a rework of Mob of the Dead in a very different setting. It took those themes and gameplay elements and improved on them in almost every aspect. Sure, it got to stand on the shoulders of giants, but the focus of the series is to look at the map for what it is in and out of itself. And in that regard, Shadows is a masterpiece. Very few maps ever managed to strike such a beautiful ambiance, and overall it is one of the most standout maps in Treyarch's entire catalog. My final rating for Shadows of Evil is a 9.8 out of 10.
S tier! Double S tier, baby. Oh, that music is so good. So good, man. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% deserved. So he put it actually behind Mob of the Dead and Origins. I don't know if he's using this tier chart as like each one of these spots is actually the like order, or he's just doing it by release date. I think just quick glance, he's doing it by release date. So never mind. But yeah, yeah, 100% agree. 100% deserved. That's exactly where I would put it. Great video, Pat. I feel like he really encaptured a lot of the stuff that I necessarily hadn't thought about, but is still really, really, really important. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the stuff that he said I maybe didn't agree with, but it, like, brought a new perspective, most of the bad stuff, and then all the good stuff he said about the map I pretty much agreed with. So, yeah. Super agreed. Double S tier. 10 out of 10, man. For real.